From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is the Midday Report on LALATE.
It's a big midday and a big home LA with I Stand With Ukraine. Fourth stimulus check update of 2022 from the beaches of Santa Monica, California, with the latest details on your big money. And that was incredible. New $80,000 of fourth stimulus checks that went live. Did you get the money? I'll feature them in today's recording. They're going live and they're starting to pay out. Then we'll be looking at sixth stimulus that'll happening at the same time as fourth stimulus. What happened just minutes ago overseas, especially in Germany and France, and what does it mean for you back in the States? It's the latest big payout, and it's happening at the same time as fourth stimulus. CR for stimulus has major developing details overnight. We'll look at that. Then fourth stimulus going to the finish line, the Build Back Better Act with those MFCs. Then major developing details on that SS 300 front as a major statement from Jay Powell's counterpart overseas today. Then we'll be looking at the energy crisis and why the White House has not dealt with it appropriately, what the White House did overnight, and why it's too little too late, potentially with a recession right on the horizon. All the latest details on what happens when Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine. There's more than a military situation, there's an economic situation unfolding domestically and internationally. And one risk assessment that no one's looked at is the potential recession on top of the inflation that could be caused by devaluation of those Russian positions, bonds and stocks, as U.S. banks have major positions in them and are likely to report massive corporate downturns in the latest earnings reports in just a few weeks. The latest details in today's recording with a big recording of new checks, $80,000 of checks that went live. It's a fourth stimulus add-on, and the money is start paying out today. Then we'll be looking at the SS 300 situation, the big money for that CR, and big surprises that no one saw coming. And then we'll be looking at the situation unfolding with that sixth stimulus on the horizon. It's a big broadcast of the shores of Santa Monica, California, and the international news impacting Ukraine as well. The details start right now as Home LALATE gets underway from Santa Monica, California, starting right now. Good afternoon. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and we are along the coast of Santa Monica, California. Hope the weather is good where you are. Well, here we go. Look at this wonderful map. I mean, this map is incredible. $80,000 new checks went live, and this is a fourth stimulus add-on. These are fourth stimulus checks, and I'm going to show you how to get them. If you haven't gotten them, boy, viewership of this channel are ready to pounce and have started to clean up on those checks already. We'll go over all those incredible checks in today's recording, but we'll also look at that sixth stimulus package, heating up with major developing details as recession and inflation are magnitude bound, with a major developing details of potential debt devaluation of the Russian economy that could impact us domestically. Oh, we have a lot in today's recording. If you're new to Home LALATE, it goes over first your money in the first part of the recording, and then the international news that impacts you domestically. But also today, I have major commentary because the President of the United States pivoted on his energy price position overnight, and I'll explain to you whether that pivot is real or whether it's unfounded at the moment. That commentary coming up later in this video, but first let's start with the Build Back Better Act. The fourth stimulus recon will go to the finish line with 3 clusters of checks and 3 add-ons of checks. In tonight's evening's LA 1-hour special broadcast in prime time, I'll go over each of these checks, but let's just do a preview of them right now. There's 3 clusters of them that amount to about $15,000. In that first cluster, there's hazard pay and elder care. The hazard pay for my essential workers, also the children's check, $3,600, the Pell Grant, and also the money for the home repairs across the board. Now, there are home repairs in that fourth stimulus add-on we're getting to in a second. But the first add-on of checks comes from the incredible Maxine Waters here in Southern California, $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. How do you get it? It's coming up tonight in that evening's LA 1-hour special broadcast. In cluster number 2 of the Build Back Better Act, there are home repairs and paid leave. Now, there's a lot of money. Paid leave is if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness from work. And that is the second of 3 clusters of checks in the Build Back Better Act. The second add-on is $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. The third cluster of checks has in there free internet, farmers checks, and independent contractors checks. Seniors get lots of checks with 2 on the House and 3 on the Senate. On the House side, they have the dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare. And the Senate side, they have also the other items like dental, vision, and also the Medicaid gap fix, which is par for the course when we're talking about adding checks to this recon. The checks that would also be added in there, of course, are MSC. This is a body of legislation of checks that would be added to the recon that already has about $15,000 to $60,000 checks in there. The senators represent they're adding MSCs, and the eligibility would be the same as a third stimulus check. Tonight in that 1-hour special broadcast of Evenings LA at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, I'll go over more about these checks, but it's single individual $75,000 less, married couple $150,000 less, double it, and family of 4 quadruple it. If you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you would get as well, says the senators of viewership of this channel. The amount is $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. Again, tune into that evening's broadcast, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Now, for stimulus recon, the Build Back Better Act is its numbering system. But to make things clear, I had to give another numbering system, and so I'm using the number 4 also for this. A fourth stimulus add-on or fourth stimulus ancillary piece of legislation is now law. This is not a bill, it's now law. And it's $80,000 of checks. I'm calling it now on this channel the fourth stimulus ancillary or fourth stimulus add-on because it's not in the Build Back Better Act, but it's law. And it started to pay out today, yesterday. And what are you looking at? You're looking at a map. The map, if you see your state in the color teal, like California, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, yeah, New York is teal as well, then you get these checks. How much is it? It's a lot. Let's go over the details of those checks right now. It's $15,000 to $80,000 of stimulus checks. And the eligibility is just like third. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a homeowner's grant. Now, the great news is that you're either a renter or a homeowner. If you're a renter, you get third stimulus. It's coming up in just a second in this video. If you're a homeowner, then you get third stimulus or the homeowner's grant. So viewership of the channel, if you rent or you own, you're covered one way or the other. This is the homeowner's grant. I'm calling it a fourth stimulus add-on because it's coming at the same time as fourth stimulus. The only difference is Build Back Better is not law. This is law. It was first announced by the president last Friday, and as this channel would only do, I delivered immediately to the members of this channel. It's in the membership newsletter starting last Friday, and this is what you need to know. First, it's live in those states that are indicated by the color teal. Number 2, in the states that are not teal, it will go live shortly. So don't think that it's not offered anywhere. It's offered everywhere. Number 3, it's $15,000 to $80,000. Next, eligibility is just like third stimulus. So single individual, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it. If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, and own a home, and are inside of the income qualification I just went over, you get it as well. It's huge. So if you're a member, you open that membership newsletter, and in the membership newsletter, you go right into the link to apply. It is administered at a state level, and it's just sort of like the unemployment assistance coverage on this channel a year and a half ago. States do it differently. Each state runs it differently, but the eligibility is incredible, and the sums of money are huge. Now, what does it cover? It covers a lot of the items that viewers have asked for coverage for in the last year and a half, and I often didn't have it, like property insurance, like association fees, homeowners insurance, property taxes. But it does overlap with third stimulus, utilities as well. Now remember, you can get third stimulus and get this at the same time. It's huge. Now, what's the latest update on that CR for stimulus? The latest details on the CR for stimulus is the House of Representatives overnight passed a CR. But wait a second, I thought they passed another one before. It's a little confusing. It is confusing. There's no way to say, but it's confusing. There was a CR passed several weeks ago in the House, sent to the Senate. $1.5 trillion discretionary funding, bipartisan support, done. So why did Nancy pass another one last night? She keeps on passing them. I don't know why. In fact, she passed two last night. So where are we on this? The latest situation is, the good news is Joe Biden's COVID allotment didn't get in there. Nancy said, I'm taking it out. And she said, stop whining. I'm not putting it in there. She said something along the lines of stop whining. I can't believe she actually said that, referring to the president. So she took it out because she knew the senators, Republicans, said, we're not going to pass the CR. And she said, we have to pass the CR. This is ridiculous. So we're taking out the COVID. So it's gone. Good. Sorry, Joe. Your COVID is gone. So we will have a COVID, we will have a CR deal. That's number one. We will have $1.5 trillion discretionary funding. Number two. And so far, it looks like we have the Tuesday date lined up. It doesn't look like we're rolling into April. That's why Nancy did this. If she had left COVID in there, we'd roll to April. So we are staying with April. That's also good. There's room to do a $2,000 stimulus check. They haven't done it yet. They can still put that $2,000 stimulus check in there. And then the other part that is a big surprise, a huge surprise, and you're going to see it tonight in that 1 hour special broadcast of Evenings LA, is that the continuing resolution, which is to fund the federal government, got programs in there for county stimulus. Excuse me? Yes, there is county stimulus in there for many counties. And while, I have a lot of viewers from a lot of different counties, I can't cover everyone's county. But this is detailed in tonight's Evenings LA broadcast, and I use Georgia as an example. Georgia representatives, remember, if you're a representative, you don't represent the whole state, you represent your district, got county stimulus in there. And each county got something slightly different. So it's very, very exciting. So look to your county news to see what may have gotten in there. In the case of Georgia, we have all these respective little counties that got items in there. It's detailed from whether it's a substance abuse situation for stimulus, or whether it's revising or modifying the military base in the county, or whether it is, in one case, it was about $5 million for one item, and then $4 million for another item. Just lots of county stimulus got in there. It's huge, and it's just very, very exciting. So a version of CR for stimulus is now confirmed at the time of this recording, but the $2,000 effort still being pushed across the board. Now, when you look at SS300, we have major developing details. If you tuned into Mornings LA today, which I think you did because it was a very watched show, I told you it was the show to watch because of a number that was going to come out that impacts your SS300. And what was it? Inflation. And what happened? Exactly as I predicted. That's why you tune into here. We got yellow and red, yellow and blue, by the way, for Ukraine. The inflationary number, 8%. 7.9 to be exact. Exactly what I predicted. So this is huge. This is exactly where you wanted it. So Joe Biden, if he made that phone call today to swap COLA for inflation, you'd be locked in exactly where we were in December, actually a bit higher. I think December was 7.5. So I said, if Joe, you want to hope this CPI number, the consumer price index number released this morning, comes at 8. It came in at 7.9. Perfect. Jay Powell, your head of the Federal Reserve, his job is to bring down inflation. He can't get it down lower than 8% in the next 30 days, despite what he does at the FOMC meeting. Here's what's also breaking news you're hearing for the first time on this channel at noontime. Jay Powell's counterpart overseas, the European Central Bank, came in with their policy today more aggressive than Wall Street anticipated. More aggressive. Even with Putin, even with supply chain, even gasoline, came in more aggressive. Their inflation is not as bad as our inflation. So would Jay Powell pivot? No. Jay Powell has already locked himself into quarter basis point for this month. But I'm worried about April. I'm watching April. Will Jay Powell see his counterpart overseas come in more aggressively today, say maybe April I'll come in more aggressively? This is why Joe needs to make that phone call. Joe, make that phone call and swap out COLA for inflation. Good news, if he swaps it out today, swaps it out a month from now, you're locked in at that higher basis point. Remember, the way it works is your benefits are assessed based upon a benchmark. The benchmark right now is COLA. He promised to swap it out for inflation. If he swaps it out today, you have the highest rate of inflation of a generation. And despite what Jay Powell does in April, if Joe makes a swap today or early April, you're still going to get that 8% because Jay Powell's change of monetary policy in April would not impact the economy until May. So we're good. We're good at the moment for at least 60-day working realm. Inflation may actually go higher. So at the moment, you're fine. If Joe makes that swap for COLA to inflation, you get $200 more per month right today. And then if inflation comes down to 4% later this year, you get another $100 across the board. Very, very fascinating. In the second half of this recording, we're going to go over this sixth stimulus package. And this is huge. You're going to see a major sixth stimulus package on both a U.S. standpoint, federal, and a state standpoint. State governors have now announced their version of sixth stimulus. And this was first detailed on this channel in Eating to LA 2 nights ago. Tonight, I have major developing details, but I have a preview in this recording. This is the I Stand With Ukraine. And guess what? Vladimir Putin has now caused major economic shifts in the last 24 hours that we didn't even have yesterday. In the second half of this video, we're going to go over why a major sixth stimulus package will be happening to residents of America and also Germany and France because of gasoline, because of wheat, soybeans, and corn, and because of something you're hearing for the first time on this recording. And I got to tell you, this one's a scary one. This is a scary one. It's more scary than the word recession because recession could be triggered if the price of gasoline in the United States does not come down from its current level by May. Where's the current level? I'll have that number in the second half, and then we'll go more into those $80,000 of checks, and then we'll be looking at that third stimulus that's still paying out. Boy, we got a big second half of a lot more money. I'm excited for you. I'll see you back in 60 seconds with the developing details on that big front economically and internationally that impacts you at home, and we'll be looking at the situation unfolding with Vladimir Putin and Ukraine and what is and isn't being done and what should be done. The humanitarian story as well coming up in the second half. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. I'll see you back in 60 seconds as Home I Stand With Ukraine edition continues.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.lalate.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And the excitement continues right now in this big second half of Home LALATE. If you're watching it live at 11 a.m., it's direct from Santa Monica, California. If you're watching it at 7 o'clock, it's following that 1-hour special report on what's happening domestically and internationally because of Vladimir Putin. It's a big second half, and we're going to go first into the big money that's at issue, which is this $80,000 of forced stimulus checks. This add-on is now live, and if you remember this channel, you have the details. Open that membership newsletter. Comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. And if your state is shaded in the color of teal, like California to Florida to New York and Missouri, then it's live and about to go live and pay out those sums of money. So you wouldn't get that application on file. Eligibility is just like a third stimulus check. This is for homeowners, and it's huge. If you're a renter, you can still get third stimulus as well. So I got money for you for both fronts. That is for stimulus. The CR for stimulus, really surprising, as now county stimulus has been put into the CR on the House, sent to the Senate. We'll see whether it stays intact. I think it will. This is really surprising. I won't have abilities to go through everyone's county on this channel, but it's big. Then SS 300, Jay Powell is really likely to stay at that quarter basis point in just a few days from now, because that's what he said he would. Then if Joe Biden makes that phone call, swap it out for COLA for inflation, you'd lock in that $200 a month now, lifetime more per benefits. And then in December, maybe another $100 on top of that. We're all good. It's just Joe needs to make the phone call now before Jay Powell reduces that inflationary rate. But what is this sixth stimulus package? And why is it not pie in the sky and has major breaking news right at the time of this recording? It's huge. Let me go over the details of it and what's happening. Sixth stimulus is going to happen on both an international, national, and state level. I was the first to report this 2 nights ago during Evenings LA, and right after the show was airing, the state governor saying we're rolling it out domestically. Let me tell you what it is for, and then let me tell you what it's about. It is for the economic shift in the United States because of Vladimir Putin. And you may think it's stimulus because of gasoline. That's the easiest way to say it, but it's a lot more than gasoline. And in this recording, I don't want to scare you, but it's going to be because of another economic event that could potentially be happening right this very moment. Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has caused an energy event. And that energy event is how much you're paying for gasoline at the pump. But if you've been to the supermarket, you notice that bread has gone up, soybeans, corn. It's also because of Putin. What you're likely to see, and I'm having the first details for you today on this channel, is corporate earnings from banks you do business with having major losses in the next quarter because they had positions in Russian banks, bonds, and Russian securities. And they're likely to report those earnings in the next round out. The situation for the Russian economy is that it started this war at number 10 largest economy and is likely to become a Cuba by the end of this month. What does this mean? It means its credit will have no value. It'll be junk bond status. And that U.S. banks that invest in Russia, because we understand there's U.S. banks that invest in Russia, they are going to have a major loss. They will have a line item on their quarter earnings which says $500 million loss. That impacts your economy. That impacts our economy. And that means that we're going into a bad situation very quickly. When's the last time we've seen anything like this? The savings and loan debacle from decades ago. Many, many years have we seen anything where our banks could negatively be impacted by other banks in another country in a magnitude of an enormous level. This is bigger than gasoline because gasoline is a risk you and I can assess. Banks going under in Russia and having no value and hurting our banks is a risk that no one has looked at. And that's why sixth stimulus is happening. All right, so when would sixth stimulus happen? What would it look like? And what does it formulate? Sixth stimulus would happen generally around April. Why? Because there's a trifecta issue. It's Germany, France, the United States. Joe Biden is a Democrat. Germany's leader is a Democrat by counterpart. And so is France's, Macron. But we're waiting to see if Macron is reelected. And if he is reelected, then the trifecta is going to pass major stimulus for their societies. This is not a guessing game. They've already said it. Why? Let me explain to you why they're doing it and why it's happening. The issue is that a week ago on this channel, Anthony Blinken, your Secretary of State, said that he wants world leaders to get off of Russian oil. The response initially from Germany was, we can't do it. We have no alternative. Our economy will go under. Then Germany pivoted, understanding this is a moral situation. It's not just an economic situation. You have to get off of Russian oil morally. And so Germany understands now, okay, we'll get off of Russian oil, but we have to spend debt. We have to raise debt, national debt in our country, and give money to our citizens because they can't afford a Russian embargo unless we give them assistance. France, the same thing. And guess what? The United States, the same situation as well. The United States understands we as a community cannot afford the price of gasoline currently. If we do this more weeks, we go into recession. Let me give you the economic threat. Let me give you the economic analysis, and let me give you the breaking news. There's a lot happening on this front in the last few minutes. Economically, when we talk about gasoline, it's very simple. The current gasoline prices are not sustainable in the U.S. economy. And if they stay at the current gas levels to the month of May, which is 8 weeks away, we go into recession for 2 years. So where's gasoline right today? It's the gasoline prices per AAA, which is the benchmark for unleaded nationwide, is over $4. It's like $4.30. Anything over $4 through the month of May, not sustainable. We go into recession for 2 years. Okay, so that's the threat. We can fix our gasoline, but the other problem is that if we fix our price of gasoline, but we don't get our partner countries to fix their price of gasoline, we also go to recession. If we fix gasoline here, but France and Germany doesn't fix their gasoline prices, we go into recession as well. So this is, we got 8 weeks to work on this, folks. We got 8 weeks to work on this. That is the first risk. Let's say we fix gasoline, that risk. Have we fixed soybean, wheat, and grain? No. Is anyone working on it? No. So we don't fix that risk, we also go to recession. Then there's the banking industry, which is brand new on this recording. No one has assessed the risk of the banking industry. And the banking industry really scares me. This one, if the bank positions of U.S. banks in these foreign, in these Russian positions are as large as we think they are, major U.S. banks will take major hits this year. How do we know this? This is what I want you to understand. There's two expressions: getting out of Russian businesses, getting out of Russia, versus taking a loss on Russia. Let me explain the difference. This week, U.S. banks and U.S. brokerage houses say we're getting out of Russia. Goldman Sachs says it's winding down business in Russia. That means it's closing the office and not doing any more business in Russia. Deutsche Bank, which is a German bank, said that it's not practical to close its Russian bank because we have to support our clients. And for practical purposes, that option is not available. So we have to support our clients. That's different than taking the loss on Russia. Let me explain to you what this looks like. You're a U.S. bank, you have an office in Russia. You're closing the office. Okay, you're closing the office. But wait a second. A U.S. bank had a $500 million investment in Russian bonds. In a few weeks from now, those Russian bonds could have no value. Suddenly you have to declare the loss in the corporate earnings that come out in just a few weeks from now. This could be absolutely catastrophic to the U.S. economy. Catastrophic because we do not know how exposed a lot of U.S. banks are to those Russian positions that are about to have no value. This has nothing to do with closing a door or a window in an office. This is very serious, folks. Very, very serious. How does this impact you? It impacts you in so many ways. You may only shop at your local bank, your local community bank, and your local community bank does business with a major U.S. bank that happens to have a major loss in a Russian position. It grows. And unless you've seen a major bank meltdown, you don't remember it. The last time we saw anything like this, I think, was right before the few weeks before Obama came into office. The few weeks before Obama came into office in Los Angeles, you had banks closing down every 10 seconds. So there's another bank closing down. We had, I think it was Wachovia. You woke up one morning, Wachovia was gone. It was there and then it was gone. You saw remember the auto industry? We had all these auto companies. They started closed in 10 minutes. It was that pervasive a problem. So what's going on today? The situation with the sixth stimulus is that no one really knows this risk. And if you don't know the risk, you don't know what's on the horizon. When Deutsche Bank says that we have clients that have positions in Russia, well, trust me, there's banks that have positions in Russia. And while they will get out of them, the impact on is unclear. On Evenings LA 2 nights ago, I detailed Big Shot. He is not in an HBO show with Sarah Jessica Parker. No, that's the other guy. This is Big Shot. Big Shot was a guy in Southeast Asia who took a position betting on nickel going a certain way on electric vehicles. He bet wrong because of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and suddenly the nickel industry almost imploded last week. And those banks had to cover his margin error. Vladimir Putin, Ukraine, nickel, it's just every commodity is at risk and no one's assessing the risk. Let's go over all this big money and why it impacts you domestically. Joe Biden, with allegiances of Germany and France, will be pivoting to do a major spending allocation because they understand we as Americans can't afford $4 a gallon. So the U.S. economy has to do something, and we can't just sit around and absorb as a consumer $4 a gallon at the pump. It could go higher. If we do, we go into recession. So the government will spend on a federal level in the United States very, very quickly. Next, the government on a state level will spend as well. As soon as I announce 6 stimulus, today is what? Wednesday? No, today's Thursday. As soon as I announce 6 stimulus on the Tuesday evening's LA broadcast, the governors later that night says, we're coming out with our own programs. There's going to be different versions of every state. In some states, they're considering taking gasoline and waiving your tax at the pump, which would be huge. You'd save fortunes every time you pump. You could see it drop from $5 to $1 a gallon. So they're going to do lots of different approaches, and they're floating these all on a different level. Here is what's happening with the gas situation overnight. I'm going to give you the facts, and I'm also going to give you a commentary. And boy, I'm not happy with it. In October 2020, before Halloween, I told viewership of this channel that a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine could be the biggest economic event of 2022. How did I know it? It was easy. There was 100,000 Russian troops, the biggest buildup since the Cold War, at the Ukrainian border. As they don't belong there. Something's going to happen, potentially. If it happens, major economic events could happen. So I told viewership, don't take positions, don't buy this, don't buy that. Be prepared because this could be a major economic event. Who also saw that? Who also saw that was the White House. Why? Because the White House actually admits it sent a letter to Treasury saying analyze all the economic elements of a potential invasion of Ukraine. At issue was oil. They analyzed oil, but they didn't analyze wheat or grain or soybean. And just a few days ago, Reuters reached out to the White House saying, have you analyzed those commodities? No. Folks, this is very serious. The White House needs to be analyzing all these commodities from wheat to grain. Why? Because they're being disrupted right now. Let's go over wheat. Wheat is the easiest example. Even though it's a complex commodity, it's an easy example. Wheat is grown in the beautiful region of the Black Sea of Ukraine. Well, the men are not harvesting wheat because they're defending their country right now. So the crop is lost. And because the crop is lost, there's less wheat around the globe. If there's less wheat around the globe, then the price of wheat goes up. Remember, the less of something, the more it goes up. It doesn't matter we grow wheat in the United States. There's less wheat now internationally because Ukrainian wheat is no longer part of the equation. So the price of wheat is going up. And it's going to continue to go up, not just now, but for years to come. Because guess what? The men are not harvesting the crops, and they're not preparing the crops for next season either. And the crops may be lost for years to come. So wheat could be very high for years to come. Who's preparing for this risk? No one in the White House. No one in the White House is prepared for the risk of your bread going up. Viewers, as soon as I started covering wheat on the channel, I think it was about day 2 of the invasion, viewers said, oh my God, that's why the bread is going up so much at the supermarket. Yeah. And that is a very easy thing to understand. You buy the bread, it's in your hand, and it's more than it was the day before. It's not because of COVID. It's not because of truckers and supply chain. It's because of Vladimir Putin. Wheat, soybeans, grain, all featured every night in the membership newsletter. I now, at the front of the membership newsletter, feature the movement on wheat and grain. So you know, is the situation getting worse economically? These are numbers you need to know. I also feature the price of gasoline, where it's trending at that very moment. Today, the price of gasoline is $1.13 a barrel. Now, when we turn back to the gasoline situation, this is where I'm not happy. Let me give you the timeline of this situation with the White House and what's brand new at the time of this recording for gasoline. White House knew gasoline could be a major issue for 2022 in October last year. 100,000 troops, Russian at the Ukrainian border. If he invades, something's going to happen with oil. Told Treasury to analyze the situation. Okay, we all know that. Treasury has admitted that. Did Treasury have a plan in place? No. Why? Because they haven't deployed it. We also know that as well. What happened day one when Russia invaded Ukraine? Americans were ready to help Americans. Who are they? Texans. Texas, big oil, Texas, said, hi, we're Americans. We can increase production of gasoline in Texas. We're ready to go. If we increase production in the United States of Texas gasoline, price of gasoline goes down. Remember, the more of it, the cheaper. The less of it, the more expensive. So West Texas, on day one of the invasion, said, we're ready to increase production. White House calls. White House didn't call. For 11 days of this channel, I said, there's something going on. I featured on one recording 9 days ago, the undersecretary to Janet Yellen appearing on news asked, why have you not reached out to West Texas? West Texas says you're not answering their phone calls. Avoided the question, refused to answer the question 3 times. Let's make sure you understand the optics of this. The White House's optics are they're avoiding discussing anything with West Texas for 10 days. That's the optics. There's no way around it. Print media, broadcast media, everyone understands West Texas is not getting a phone call from the White House. So what happened last night? What happened last night is your energy secretary, who I adore, Jennifer Grant, your energy secretary, who Sir Lloyd adores as well. She's the one with a lot of energy. She issued a statement saying, we're excited to ramp up production in West Texas. You are. We haven't told them that. Jennifer Granholm said, we are on war footing. We're an emergency and we have to, the responsibility increase. We have to responsibly increase short-term supply where we can right now to stabilize the market and minimize harm to American families. Great. The quote is wonderful. Secretary Granholm, the quote is wonderful. Let's read again. We have to responsibly increase short-term supply. We have to short-term increase supply in West Texas. Good. It's the perfect quote. The problem is it's an empty statement. Why? You know why I'm laughing? Because good news reporters did good stuff. They went back to West Texas after the quote. They said, here is the Energy Secretary's quote. Has she reached out to you? No. No, she hasn't reached out to us. We've asked them to reach out to us. I understand she's issuing quotes saying, let's increase production. We still have not heard from the Energy Secretary. We have still not heard from Joe Biden. We've reached out to them to ask, can we increase production? And it's nice to say that we should we have to responsibly increase short-term supply, but there has been no instruction to do it. Let's say it again. She is now pivoting the White House's policy from not even answering the question, avoiding answering the question 100%, evasive as you can be, not answering why aren't you increasing production, to now saying we should increase production. And West Texas saying, that's fine, you haven't told us that, give us an instruction to increase production. It looks like going to a department store, look in the window on the first floor, looking at that outfit. It looks gorgeous. Go inside the store. I say, I want that outfit. We don't have it. It's just for show. This is just for show. West Texas says the comment by Granholm is just for show because there's nothing behind it. Why is this happening? Makes no sense. Now, I can tell you why I think it's happening. It is Brian Deasy, a guy who should not be in the administration. Brian Deasy is the chief of the Economic Council, the ELE. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's never known what he's doing. And what is he saying? He says, it's times like this the way that the pivot off to electric vehicles. Brian, you don't know what you're talking about. The average electric vehicle in the United States is $50,000. If people can't afford $4 a gallon for gasoline, they can't afford a $50,000 electric vehicle. If you had ready for millions of Americans a $15,000 electric vehicle and say, hey, let's pivot off and go buy an electric vehiel, and you gave us a credit where you can go buy a $15,000 electric vehicle, and it's 4 doors and it has air conditioning, it has locked doors, and has wheels, then maybe that would make sense. But every time that Brian D says, this is the reason why we have to buy an electric vehicle, Joe Biden goes around the White House driving that Hummer for publicity. The Hummer's $100,000. He keeps on talking about the Ford Lightning. It's $75,000. Well, $35,000, $40,000. That's good. People don't have $45,000 to buy the average electric vehicle. It's not like there's a lot of $12,000 electric vehicles or $20,000 electric vehicles, and then there's some 80,000. They're mostly hovering off $50,000. So to say that the way we solve the energy crisis, go buy an electric vehicle for $50,000, maybe if you're on a White House salary, you could do that. That doesn't resonate with the American people. And Joe Biden, every time you tweet the virtues of going and buying a $75,000 electric pickup truck, I just don't know what political party you represent. That doesn't sound like a Democrat. When did Democrats say, go buy a $70,000 car? Oh, my goodness. So Granholm, I love her to death. I love her. But Jennifer, you're the energy secretary. If you pay the electric bill, then use the phone and call West Texas. If you paid the electric bill, the phone bill, the utility bill, pick up the phone, call West Texas, say increase production. All right, let's go over why that solves half of the equation and not the full part of the equation. If West Texas produced more gasoline tomorrow, good. Gasoline comes down in the United States a little bit. Why? The United States is not dependent upon Russian oil. And while the White House and the administration and every American wants Russian oil banned, 70% of U.S. Americans in a new poll want Russian oil and everything else Russian banned, we're not dependent on Russian oil. So we're going to ban it. It's not going to help the price of the pump and increase in production domestically. We'll only do part of the equation. What is the other part of the equation? The other part of the equation is our ally countries. Here's what the issue. Recession will come to the United States if we don't get our price of gasoline down in the United States by increasing production in West Texas. And here's the big part. And recession will also come to the United States if we do fix gasoline in the United States, but we don't fix it for our partner countries. We, as an economy, are dependent upon the stability of our partner countries like Italy and France and Germany. And if they don't have an alternative Russian oil, they go into recession, and guess what? You know what I say. They bring us into recession. So we have to stabilize not only our economy and also our partner countries. And boy, this is why I'm not happy. I'm not happy because the White House knows this. The White House can do this. The White House has shown its success stories with partner countries with economic issues. Joe Biden's biggest achievement, Janet Yellen's biggest achievement, was going overseas and getting that corporate minimum tax rate raised for all our partner countries in less than 2 weeks early last year. 2 weeks they got it done. This Russian invasion is now into the second week. Has anyone gotten those partner countries onto another oil? No. Here's my commentary in today's video. The vice president is overseas for Jetgate. Jetgate is that no one wants to deliver the jets to Ukraine because they don't want to have responsibility to be the person who hands it off. Why? Whoever hands it off, Vladimir Putin's going to say, you are giving the planes, I'm going after you. That's what Jetgate is. So Jetgate, no one's giving planes. So the fact that she's there, she has a free schedule now. What should she be doing? She should be speaking to those partner countries to get oil to them. Let's go over the details of it right now. Germany, 40% of his gasoline comes from Russia. And so when Anthony Blinken was there last week, he said to Germany, can you get off Russian oil? They said, no, we don't have an alternative set up. Who's to blame? The partner countries. The partner countries aren't helping each other. They should have been preparing for this back in October. If I was a leader of any of these countries, I would have said, hey, what is the contingency ready for gasoline if Putin invades? We will have an energy crisis. Do we have anything ready? No, we don't have anything ready. Okay, now we've been in this war 11 days. Or we haven't, but we watched it. And what has been done? Nothing. What happened earlier this week? You're looking at a map of the Middle East and Iraq. Earlier this week, OPEC said that Iraq may, no, let me clarify. A rumor said that OPEC may have Iraq increase production to bring down the price of gasoline internationally. Unfortunately, it was a rumor. It's not fact. It's a rumor. Here's the problem, is that no one has lined up gasoline for our partner countries. When the United States started pivoting last week to ban Russian oil, world economies thought that they will do the same thing. They will ban Russian oil for moral reasons, which they should. They absolutely should. But they ban Russian oil. Where are they going to get the oil from? Costco, yeah. It'll come in the mail. It'll come in an envelope. They have nothing They have nothing ready. Venezuela is the major exporter of oil. Anyone reach out to Venezuela? Yeah. Any deal? No. OPEC had a meeting last week to potentially to address the situation. They did. They said they're not increasing production. They're not increasing production to bring down the price of gasoline. Did they help anyone? No. They help themselves? Yeah. How about the partner countries? Another threat? Yeah. Putin. He has now vowed to turn off, close the pipeline, the actual pipe that feeds oil to Germany. It's called Nord 1. Yeah, he wants to turn it off. So he says, hey, ban me? No, I'll cut you to the punch. I'll cut it off. You're not going to have anything. Imagine you wake up one morning, your country has no oil. No one's prepared for this. This is very serious, folks. This is not a small thing. We've gotten through COVID together. You can't see COVID. It's not in front of you. You can't hold COVID in your hand. You can hold wheat in your hand. You can hold soybean. You can feel gasoline in your fingertips. You can feel nickel in your hand. And if suddenly that thing in your hand is 10 times the value than it was a month before, then you say to yourself, where am I going to get the money to pay for this? And if someone doesn't have a solution for you and you go through this for March, April, and May, then what happens to your bank account? Suddenly you have less money in your bank account to pay for that thing you would have paid for a certain price for many years to come. And this is something that only the White House can do. Only the White House and the partner countries can do. This is not something Jay Powell can do. Jay Powell only governs monetary policies like inflation. My concern right now is the following. White House has no clear risk assessment of the situation, and White House has no clear implementation of the situation domestically or internationally. My other concern is Wall Street does not have the risk assessment for the situation or is not telling us the risk assessment, and we will not know the risk assessment for about another 3 weeks. If you don't know the risk, you get blindsided. And if you get blindsided, you lose a fortune. The risks are the impact on Putin's invasion in Ukraine on all these issues. If Wall Street has not told us the risk, and we first to see it when bank number one in the United States announced corporate earnings, let's say in 2 weeks from now, and says, I took a $500 million hit because we had a Russian position, and our stock is down $20, 20% in one day. Then suddenly have a stock market crash, a crypto crash, a bond crash. Yeah, they know how much of a position they have in Russia. They're not telling us yet. We'll know it in a few days, a few weeks from now. The White House may have some ability to know how much exposure our banks have to Russia. But the White House understands the situation from grains and wheat and oil, has the ability to tell us that risk. Has it done anything? No. The vice president overseas, if she's not dealing with Jetgate, then she should be shoring up the partnership. What is Janet Yellen doing? You know, I love Janet Yellen, but what is her team doing? If her team can go overseas and get a corporate minimum tax rate done in 7 days, you can certainly work on a pivot to get some oil to our partner countries from Venezuela or OPEC countries in 7 days. Let's understand, May, unsustainable. You got 8 weeks to get this done. You don't get it done, well, it's less than 8 weeks now. You don't get it done in 8 weeks, we're in a recession. It don't matter what the American Rescue Plan look like in 2021, or what Build Back Better Act looks in 2022, or $80,000 stimulus checks look like right now in March 2022. If suddenly your economy has no value, if suddenly your economy is heading into recession because you didn't assess the risk, then it's not an issue of inflation, it's an issue of recession. And that's why the situation is unfolding by the minute. Let me go to another subject matter I want you to understand, which is very, very important. And this situation is the words ceasefire. Ceasefire has caused massive confusion economically and financially in the last few days. Let me go to the words. Ceasefire, when you hear the word, you often think it means a war has stopped. Oh, there's a ceasefire. People put down their arms. There's no war going on. So when some people in the financial markets have heard the word ceasefire in the last few days, they thought the war had stopped, and they said, oh, that's good. Let's go buy stuff. Let's go buy some stocks and bonds and crypto. Ceasefire is a word that's being used this time around to describe when there's a safe corridor for fleeing citizens. The situation right now is that, thankfully, I have some good news for you, and you may have seen it as well. After many attempts from Ukraine and Russia to get a ceasefire for a few hours to evacuate residents from towns to safe harbor in neighboring countries, it finally got done. Several hours was effectuated and maintained so that residents were able to flee. This situation is very troubling because we don't know how many residents may have died before they fled. Why? There are residents who have been in shelter without food and electric and gas, and 11 days you can't cut it that way. So we may never know how many people have now perished in their homes in shelter, because by the time the safe harbor was opened, they may have already died. That's number one. Number two, there's some people still never got out. Number three, the death toll continues to grow across the board, and the situation is very fluid by the moment, by the hour. The humanitarian crisis is growing by the minute. 1.5 million. These towns in Ukraine are large towns. They're hundreds of thousands to millions of residents. So expect the refugee situation to be upwards of 5 to 10 million. It will be the largest since World War II. We know that from the UN. We still see Vladimir Putin trying to take towns. He hasn't been successful. In the case of the beautiful town of Odessa you're looking at right here, he's trying to take the port city. If he takes the port city, then he takes the major port of Ukraine and cuts off its ability to survive economically. But in some regard, Vladimir Putin has already succeeded in hurting catastrophically the economy of Ukraine. He controls the major source of all electricity in the country. He is ostensibly, because of his occupation, controlling the import and export of goods and services. There's a lot of humanitarian organizations in Ukraine who now report they've run out of medical supplies, and because of the Russian invasion, they cannot get medical supplies. So because of his occupation of Ukraine, he has cut off food, water, electric, gas, and medical supplies, and it's going to get worse by the moment. People who got out, thank goodness. People who have not gotten out may fall into a very, very bad state of despair because what they need is not going to be able to get into the country, and what they need in the country will be turned off. This situation is unraveling by the moment. Let me tell you what President Zelensky is doing and what the response is as well. President Zelensky overnight appeared on a Sky News, which is a British channel, pleading for Western allies to protect a no-fly zone. What is a no-fly zone? A no-fly zone means that no planes would fly over Ukraine that are Russian. Well, the problem is it would require Western allies to enforce the no-fly zone. Translation, it means that our U.S. troops would be in Ukrainian territory protecting Ukraine for a Ukrainian-Russian war. Not happening. And that is why it's very difficult to watch on, but it's also important to understand that the president is correctly on message. We as Americans support Ukraine, but we also cannot be drawn into the war by finding it in Ukrainian airspace. And while we can provide jets, the providing the jets has been very problematic. Let me tell you what's going on with this jet situation. Everyone wants to get jets to Ukraine, but the Pentagon now believes, and I think they're right, that Vladimir Putin will look at whoever gave the jet last as the aggressor. So if you're looking at the situation, and a jet is delivered to Ukrainian military, and the name on the jet is owner number one, Vladimir says, Putin will look at it and say, owner number one gave you jet, I'm going after owner number one because they're now at war with me. So the Pentagon has seen this as a major problem. It's very, very confused across the board. Meantime, a lot of organizations have really ramped up their humanitarian efforts. I encourage you to look at all the different humanitarian organizations and understand how they're able to get the supplies in there. It's very fluid, and it's very sad. One of the organizations I was looking at last night that was able to get supplies in there now can't get the supplies in there. So there's a lot of stories across the board. Finally, on a personal message, there's one YouTube channel. I don't want to go too deep because I'm gonna get emotional. There's one YouTube channel that I truly adore. I've watched it for maybe about a year, and of the subject of the channels that I like to watch animal rescue channels. I really adore them. And this person, she's out of Ukraine, and I've adored her channel for a very, very long time. It's very hard to watch it right now because I understand the situation in a magnitude that I see, but I also don't understand the situation. And there's a human story to everything out there. Finally, I send my deep thoughts and prayers to the husband and the father of a Ukrainian woman here in California. If you saw the story, there is and I hope I tell it right because it's a complicated story. There's a wonderful, beautiful Ukrainian woman who worked for a tech company here in California and was back in Ukraine with her son and daughter, but not her husband or not her father. And she stayed there to tend for her mother. I do not know what happened to her mother in the story, so I do not know if her mother perished or did not perish. During one of the attempts to evacuate, she and her son and her daughter were in the streets of her town, and they were gunned down. That image went viral, but no one knew who it was until the California tech company identified her. There's a human story to everything, by the moment, by the hour, also also gunned down with her pets. So I send my deepest thoughts and prayers to her and dedicate this video to her and her family. It's not something you want to see, and I encourage you not to look at that imagery if you see it online, because it is very quite graphic. Join me next. If you're watching the show live on air, the 1 o'clock edition of Afternoon LA comes up next, and a brand new Afternoon LA at 3 o'clock. Then, if you're watching this in prime time, if you're watching this in the evening, don't miss the 1 hour special report of Evenings LA. It's every night at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, and 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'll feature all your big money tonight and a lot of all those developing details. We'll be looking more into that $80,000 of checks. It's live. It's paying right now, so go get it. Become a member and get that big sums of money. That is that homeowners grant program, what I call the 4 stimulus add-on. Then we'll be looking more at that 6 stimulus. We'll be looking at the latest developing details on the CR for stimulus overnight. We'll be looking at the SS 300 and how it's been impacted by that CPI number released this morning and that new pivot by the European Central Bank that surprised millions of Americans on Wall Street today. Then we'll be looking at the energy shortage and how it impacts your wallet. And finally, of course, what's happening with Vladimir Putin and what's happening in Ukraine. I stand with Ukraine, and you will have the latest updates on that and more. Join me tonight or join me next on Afternoons LA. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.